Okay. So again, there are three major topics that we will be discussing. The very first one is the limits, and then next to limits is derivatives. Limits, derivatives, and integral. Derivative is defined in terms of limits. Integral is defined in terms of derivative. It means if you are not able to understand thoroughly the limits, it means it is hard for you to understand the topic derivatives. And if you don't understand limits and derivative, it will be hard for you to understand integral. So it is very important to for you to familiarize ang pinakaunang nga topic, which is the limits. And that is our discussion for this morning. It's all about the limits. Saan sila karon pa man sila manulod, no? Okay. So, so the very first thing that you need to understand is what is limits. In a limit class, there must be function, and there must be a fixed point. I will repeat, there must be a function and a fixed point. What you're gonna do here is, so say for example, you have the number line here. If this is your fixed point A, ang inyong himuon class is, inyong tanawon what will be the behavior of your function f as you get values closer to this fixed point A. Say for example, if you say closer, so you will get values close to A from the left hand side. It means kuhaon to ninyong mga mga values diri, i-substitute ninyo sa f. And then you will observe what will happen to the value of f of x as you substitute this value to that function. And then the next thing is, if you will get values closer to A from the right hand side, and you will observe what will happen to the f of x as you get values from the right hand side. If the value of the function as you pick values of x from the left hand side and from the right hand side coincide, kung pariha ang ilang observation, then you will see that there is a limit of that function. And that is the certain value that you write in the limit. So we will have example later. Okay. And then in case the observation from the left hand side is not the same in the observation in the right hand side, it means your limit does not exist, or either there are different kinds of limits. It's either limit as discontinuity and limit is essential. So we will be discussing all of that as we go along to our discussion. Okay? Karo sa tanan? So gitagaan lang tamo gamay nga overview what is a limit. So for the very first theorem that we need to consider, before that theorem, since I asked you the calculator, say for example, we have an f of x. Saan ang gatingo? Can you mute your microphone? Okay, say for example, your f of x is equal to x plus 1. And your fixed point A is, say for example, your fixed point A is equal to 2, say for example. So in that case, what you will be doing is, you are going to locate 2. If this is 0, 0 no? So 2 must be somewhere here. Right? So what you're gonna do is, inyong tanawon what will happen to your f of x as you get value from the left hand side of 2. So for those values from the left hand side of 2, what will happen to your function as you get values here? Ito ng testingan. So if this is your x, this is your f of x, then you will pick values closer to 2 from the left hand side. If you say from the left hand side, You may pick 0. You may pick 1 because it will get closer and closer to 2. And you may get 1.9, right? From the left hand side of 2. And you may get 1.99. And another closer, one more, 1.999. So what you will do is you will substitute all of these values dito sa imuhang function nga f of x. Okay? So first thing, if x is 0, so if you substitute 0 here, your f of x is 1. Agree? Ako sa tanan? Want to hear from you? Madunggan ko?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Sir.
So now if x is 1. Wait, nag-chat. Okay, good. So if x is 1, so you substitute 1 here, obviously your f of x is equal to 2. Okay. This time, if x is equal to 1.9, so you replace it with this by 1.9, 1.9 plus 1, so it is 2.9, right? It should be 2.9. Okay. And then if you will use 1.99 in your x, so it will be 1.99 plus 1, so it will give us 2.99. 2.99. And if we will use the last value 1.999, and you observe, if you substitute it here, if you evaluate it here in the evaluation of function in your GenMat, remember, you will just replace this in the value of x. So in that case, 1.999 plus 1, so it will give us 2.999. Please unmute your microphone. So as you observe, as you pick value closer to 2 from the left hand side, as you pick value of x closer to the left hand side, you observe that the value of this f of x is getting closer to a certain number. And what is that number? Obviously, as you pick values of x closer to 2 from the left hand side, the value of f of x tends to approach to a certain number. And in that case, the number that we are referring is the number 3. Agree? Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So in that case, we can say that the limit of f of x, but in this case, our f of x is x plus 1. As x approaches to 2 from the left hand side is equal to 3. Got it? Kuha ninyo?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, the next thing is, let me adjust it for a while. Okay, so the next thing is, how about we will use the right hand side of 2. Nain ang nulod. So i-admit sila, anong karon pa ni sila manulod. Okay. So the next thing that we will do is we will use values from the right hand side of 2. If we say right hand side, so this is x, this is f of x. F of x. Okay, it will be something like this. If you say right hand side of 2, obviously ang pinakaduol niya nga whole number is 3. So you use 3. And you may also get closer and closer to 2. You may have 2.5, right? From the right hand side. And then you may have 2.99 or 2.9. And the last one is 2.99. Double 9. Got it? Kuha ninyo? Nasabtan, everyone?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
And
Yes,
after
sir.
that, you will substitute each value from the right hand side of 2 in the value of f of x, in the function f of x. If x is equal to 3, so it will be 3 plus 1. Obviously, that is equal to 4. Okay. And if your x is equal to 2.5, so it will be 2.5 plus 1, so it will give us 3.5. And if x is equal to 2.9, 2.9 plus 1, so it will give us 3.9. 3.9. And for the last one, we know that if x is equal to 2.99, so replace it here, so it will give us 3.99. And so on. And obviously, as you pick values from the right hand side of 2, you observe that the f of x, your f of x tends to approach to a certain value, certain number. And in this case, it is approaching to, obviously, it will approach to, it will tend to approach, no, wait. There is something wrong in our values that we use. It is not getting closer and closer to, in this case, ato yan duha, kadit lang, sayop tagamay. Let me erase for a while this portion. Sayop. Sayop ang value nga itong igamit. Pakita ninyo yung ini nga side, akong gisulatan karon. Class?
Yes,
Pakita.
sir.
Yes, sir. Nagitaan na, sir.
Sayop dito ang gihatag nga value. It should be x, it is f of x. Tanawan niyo hang anong sayop. Remember, we use 3 and we want this getting closer and closer to 2 from the right hand side. So if you have 3, kung magkaduol ka, it should be 2.5, right? 2.5. Agree? Kung magkaduol
Yes,
pa ka sa 2, dili 2.9, kailangan 2.9 naman diri. So it should be 2.1, right?
Sir.
Much closer, right? Madira ang sayop.
yes, sir.
And you may have 2.01. Agree? And kung magkuha pa dyan ka, 2.001 and so on. Okay? Nay, nag-message sa chat. Gani sir natin alam. Okay, sakto. So, and after that, if you choose, if x is 3, so it will give us 4. If x is 2.5, it will give us 3.5. If x is 2.1, it will give us 3.1. And if x is 2.01, it will give us 3.01 and so on. So in this case, it is very obvious, it is very clear. Karon pa manulod. For a while. Okay. So as you observe, as your x approaches to 2 from the right hand side, it is very clear that your f of x tends to approach to a certain number, and that number here is 3, right? So you can write here the limit of your f of x, the limit, in notation you write this way, the limit of f of x as x approaches to 2 from the right hand side is equal to 3. Now, for the final one, if the limit of f of x approaches to 2 from the left hand side is equal to 3, and the limit of f of x from the right hand side is equal to 3, obviously they have the same answer, then you can conclude, therefore, the limit of f of x as x approaches to 2, in general, wala kaingon ng left hand side or right hand side, is equal to 3. It will be equal to 3 if ang left hand side is equal to the right hand side. Agree? Nasabtan?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Agree, sir.
Okay. That is the
Agree.
idea of limit. But as we go along to our discussion, dili gyud ingon ani atong ginahimo nga mag-table na lang permente, dili. Namoy mga theorem nga sundon para mas madali siya pagpangita sa limits. Okay? Nasabtan? So,
Yes, sir.
okay. Dayon naay mga daghan nga mga theorem nga inyong ipang discover later. Okay? So, the first theorem that you need to remember is the uniqueness of limit. If you say uniqueness, kung naay limit ang isa ka function, isa ra gyud iyang answer. Dili pwede nga ang limit niya 2 at the same time limit niya 3. No, it will not happen. Okay, can you look at this theorem, the very first theorem? If limit of f of x as x approaches to a is L sub 1, and the limit of f of x as x approaches to a is L sub 2, L sub 1, and L sub 2, then we can say that L sub 1 and L sub 2 are just equal. So it means ang limit of a certain function is only 1. Got it? So it is called uniqueness of a limit. The second theorem that you need to remember is the linear function, limit of a linear function. If you say limit of a linear function, class, if you have a function, say something like this, what you're gonna do is the limit of bx plus c as x approaches to a, imuhar nang i-replace ito sa x. As observe here, you replace this fixed point to your x, your variable x. By the way, kani si b o si c are numbers or constants. Example for this. If you are asked what is the limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches to example 4. So ningon ang theorem, dili na mo kinahanglan atong table, imo ra ni siyang i-replace or i-substitute dira sa x. So it will be 2 times 4 plus 1, and it is now equal to 9. Even if you check it katong gihimo nato kaganiha, for sure the answer is 9. Okay? So no need to use the left hand side and the right hand side gamitan og table to know whether what is the limit of this function. By the way, in this case, your f of x is equal to 2x plus 1, right? And your a is equal to 4, right? So you can write it directly something like this. Okay, question so far? Do you have any question?
None, sir.
None. Very good. But by the way, feel free to unmute your microphone if you want to interact. You may ask question. You may respond to what I am asking. Feel free to unmute your microphone. Okay. So, the same thing with the previous example. So, ito example na to ganina. What is at our f of x is x plus, so ito?
X plus 1.
X plus 1. So, in this case, as x approaches to 2 to no? So,
Yes.
in this case, your b is 1, right? Understood that there is 1 here, right? Your c is also 1 because of this 1. So what you're gonna do is you just substitute this x here, this fixed point a here, so it will be 2 plus 1. As you observe, the answer is 3. Pareha ka ganiha? Di ba?
Yes, sir.
So parehas ra ang answer. So it means kung naa kay linear function, it is called a linear function, right? Sa general mathematics, it is if the highest exponent is 1 and it is called a linear function. So if you have a linear function, you can substitute directly your fixed point to the variable. Okay? That's the very first one. So I want you to answer this one. So any suggestion? What is the answer in letter A? Anyone?
-3, sir.
Okay, how did you get -3? Kasi nag-answer ato -3 si
Tripon, sir.
Tripon. Giunsa nimo Angelo?
Kaning -1 kay gi-substitute nako sa x.
Very good. So -2 times -1. Ana?
Yes, sir.
Minus
Then
5.
positive 2.
Yes, it is positive 2 minus 5,
Minus
right? So ang answer is negative
negative
3. Very good. And that is correct. Okay? Nakuha sa tanan? Sayon ra, di ba? Oh, sayon mo na siya.
Yes, sir.
Sayon ra kayo na. Okay. B. What is the answer in B?
0,
One.
sir. 1, sir. 1.
1.
1. Because it is 3 times 0
0.
plus 1. 0 times 3 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. And that is correct. Okay? Simple pa, di ba? Very easy. So the next thing that we will have is the limit of a constant function. So if we say the limit of a constant function, oops, wait for a while. Okay, there. Limit of a constant function. If you say constant function, that is a function wherein f of x is equal to any constant, c. C is any real number. Say for example, f of x is equal to 5. So whatever is the input in x, the answer is always 5, right? This is called a constant function in your general mathematics. Do you remember that one? Constant function? Nakainomdom pa mo? Hello, nakainomdom pa? Wala. So, what you're gonna do if you have a constant function, the answer is automatically the same with that constant. Say for example, if you are asked, what is the limit of 10 as x approaches to say -2? So automatically, since this is a constant function, automatically the answer is 10. Okay? So I will ask you now, what is the answer in number 1?
5.
5. Very good. 5. Number 2.
Square root of 3.
Very good. Square root of 3. Very good. How about number 3?
3.14.
3.14.
Or simply pi,
3.14.
right? Okay? To be exact, because 3.14 is just the rounded off value. Okay? So I think that is for that constant function. How about you have a limit of identity function? If you say identity function, it is a function wherein whatever is the input, the output is the same with the input, right? So your f of x is equal to x. You get it? So if that will happen, you just, actually this is just the extended form of the linear a while ago, right? Somehow like if you have f of x, unmute sa. So yun na yung mama. So x plus 0, right? And it is 1. This is a linear function, right? It is a linear function wherein your b is 1 and your c is 0, right? Or to make it, you just have to substitute a here, so automatically your answer is a. Or to make it easy, if you have an identity function, automatic, you just get the answer of your fixed point. Clear? The fixed point. So what is the answer in number 1?
-2.
-2. Very good, Kamal. How about number 2?
0.
0. So very good, Rosalia. How about number 3?
5.
Pi. Easy, right? Very easy.
Yes, sir.
Manana lang kasayon. Okay, this time, atong hinahinayan. Hinayan, pasaka na to gamay. Okay. Okay, sunod ta sa dili ta sa limit of sum. Okay, in the limit of sum, if you have a function f of x as x approaches to a is equal to L. Say for example, that function with that certain fixed point na anay limit nga L. And you have another function g of x wherein your fixed point is the same with the fixed point here. And it is equal to m. And if you take the sum of these two functions, just like this one, approaching to that certain fixed point A, the same fixed point A, then what you gonna do, class, is you just get the sum of their limits, individual limits. Somehow like you can use this one. You can get the answer for the first function and the answer of the second function. So that is why you have L plus M. Okay? Say for example, I give you an example. Say you have an f of x. F of x is equal to say 2x plus 3. And your g of x equal to x plus 5. And if you will get, what is the limit of f of x? What is the limit of f of x as x approaches to 0? Anyone can tell me the answer?
3, sir.
3.
Yes,
3.
the answer is 3. How about what is the limit of f of x as x approaches to a g of x din? G of x. What is the limit of g of x as x approaches to the same fixed point 0? What is the answer?
5.
5.
5.
Now,
sir.
we know that this is 3, this is 5. If you will be asked, what is the limit of f of x plus g of x? Ano po nanulot pag ulang? Si Igot. Okay. So, limit of f of x plus g of x as x approaches to 0, the same fixed point 0. So in this case, what you're gonna do, since you know the answer already with this and the answer of that, you just add the values. So it is just 3 plus
Plus
5.
5
So it is equal now to 8.
equals to 8.
Muna giingon ana nga theorem, meaning theorem limit of a sum. Got it? Sabtan ninyo?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So that's it. That is for the limit of sum. So, and there is a general limit of sum. If you say general, it may not be for 2 functions only. It can be extended into many functions. Example, you have f sub 1 of x, f sub 2 of x, until f sub n of x. And if you get the sum of all of those, you just get the answer of the first function, second function, until the last function that you have. The same idea with this, but it is extended to more than 2 functions. Got it? Sabtan ninyo, class?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the answer in number 1? What is the answer in number 1? Anyone?
Negative 4.
Negative
Negative 4.
4. Very good. It's negative 4. Okay. Now, how about in number 2? When I to look at functions, 1, 2, 3, right? So there are 3 functions. If you will evaluate it to the first function, what is the answer?
Negative 4.
Negative 4i. Familiar mo anang i? Imaginary number? Complex number? So,
Yes, sir.
Kaagi na mo ano sa inyong junior high school. So if x is equal to 0 here in the second function, your answer is negative 9i, right? Oops, 9i.
Yes.
9i. And for the last one, transcendental number e, right? The e2 point something. So it is just equal to negative of e, right? And if you simplify it further, your answer should be negative 13i minus e. And that is your answer. Got it? Sabtan, tanan?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ano lang kasayon. The next thing that you will understand is the limit of a product. Okay, i-mute sa ang microphone sa uban kanang sagatingog na mga bata. Okay, the next one is the limit of product. Insang gatingog. Nako ma-monitor. Palihog tan-aw ninyo, palihog, Kyle. Okay. So, for the limit of product, you have the limit of L. So, f of x as x approaches to a certain fixed point A is equal to L. And the limit of g of x as x approaches to A is equal to M. So, if you will multiply these two functions as was stated here with the same fixed point A, then what you're gonna do is you just multiply this answer and this answer. The same with the addition. You just multiply their specific limits. Okay? And the same with the general limit, limit of product in general form. It can be extended into more functions. And if you multiply all of them, you just multiply their specific limits. Okay? So if we will have an example, let us have an example here. And one more thing. If you will have, if this is a constant value, say k, and the limit of f of x as x approaches to A is L, and if you want to look for the answer of this, so what you're gonna do, pwede rin mo na ipadaplin si x as si k dito, katong constant. So it will be k, then you get the limit of this function. That is why k times L. Say for example, if you have, what is the limit, if I ask you, what is the limit of square root of 2, square root of 2 times x plus 2? Example, as x approaches to 1. So ang himon anak class, kaning square root of 2, pwede na sa ipadaplin diri. It will be square root of 2, then the limit of x plus 2 as x approaches to 1. And we know how to get the answer of this. Masay answer any class diri nga portion? Anyone?
3.
3. So in that case, your answer should be 3 times square root of 2. So it will be 3 square root of 2. Right? 3 square root of 2. And that is now the final answer. Pasabot, pwede rin siya ipadaplin. Okay? So, the next thing is, we will answer this one. Okay? What is the answer of this one as your fixed point is negative 2?
Negative 3.
Negative 3 because it is negative 14 plus 11, so it is negative 3. Times whatever is the answer. What is the answer here as x approaches to negative 2?
9.
It is 9 because negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8 plus 1, it is 9. And if you simplify it, your answer will be negative 27, right? And this is the final answer. Okay, what is the answer in number 2? I want your final answer. Okay, kindly tell me your final answer. Final answer? Anyone? Ato isulat din inyong mga answers. Natanaw na to kasi nakakuha og correct answer. Okay? What's the answer in number 2? Or you may type it in the chat box. Anyone?
45, sir.
Ila, Kobe? Yung answer?
45 ang answer, sir.
45. Ang uban, sa inyong answer?
Negative 60.
Negative 60. Ang uban?
Negative 60, sir.
Negative 60. The same.
Yes, sir, negative 60.
Negative 60, sir.
Yes, sir.
Negative 60.
Negative 60.
Ano na to sa chat box? Kinsa lang answer. Negative 60 ilang answer. Okay. Tanaw na to kung unsa ang correct nga answer. Okay, let's do it. So, if you will use it here, it is positive 3, right? Positive 3 times 5, it will give us 15, right?
Yes.
Positive 3 times 3, it is 9 minus 5, it is 4. Right? Agree? Positive 3, you replace it here, it is negative 3. Negative 3 plus 2, it is negative 1. 15 times 4, it is 20, it is negative 60. Yes, the correct answer is negative 60. Okay? Clear sa tanan?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay. So the next thing that we will have is the limit, the next theorem that we will have here, this one. Okay. So the limit of f of x as x approaches to a is equal to L. And n is a positive integer. Again, positive integer. Positive whole numbers, say for example, 5, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, and so on. Positive integers. And that is the value of your n. If that is the case, and if you want to find this one, and you know the answer of the function inside, you just get this, the power of that certain answer. Okay? Pasabot, kung ato nang i-apply din what is the answer as you get the limit of 2x minus 7 as x approaches to 5? Anyone?
3.
That
3.
is 3, right? Because that is 5 times 2 is 10
3.
minus 7 is 3. So 3 raised to 5 ni siya. Diba? Because of this theorem. Or pila mo ng 3 raised to 5? 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times
243.
3. It is 9. It is 27, right? Then 81. Then, gani ha? Gani?
243.
143.
243. So your answer here is 243. Okay? So, naay comments sa chat box. Ano sa nato ilang comments? Okay, okay, good. Correct. So the next thing that we will have is, I want you to do this one. Okay. I want your answers. Can you give me your answers? What is the answer here? Inside of the function. Ano na sa sulod?
Negative 5. Ay, negative.
Negative 243, sir.
Una sa, diri sa sulod. What's the answer diri sa sulod?
1.
1. 1, right? So you have now negative, no, it is 1 rather. 1 cube, right?
Yes, sir.
A combination man niya o kining na-power og ang multiplication, di ba? Product, limit of product. So the answer here is, if this is negative
3 to the power of 5.
negative 3 raised to
3.
5. Yes, that is negative 3 raised to 5. Okay. Then after that, if you simplify it, obviously kay add man ang exponent, so negative yun atong answer. Wala na siya kay 1 raman gihapon na. So negative 2, 4, 3. Right? No?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's it for that portion. So then let us proceed to the next one here. If we have the limit of f of x as x approaches to a is equal to L, then again, this time it is taking the square root. Okay, there are conditions to be considered. The first thing is, it is true, tinuod ni, you just get the square root of that answer provided that this L should be greater than or equal to 0. Because if this L is negative, obviously the square root of a negative number is undefined in the real number system, but it's in complex, it is possible. Let us assume that it is only for the positive, for the real number system. But it is true that if L is negative or less than 0, provided that your index here, this n, is an odd integer. Ano di ay? Kaya kung an odd integer na sa example, square root of 3, cube root rather, cube root. So, and you have here, say, negative 27, example. Naman ni answer, di ba? Naman ni answer. Bahalag negative nang naa sa sulod, kini less than 0. Nya kini odd number, makuha mo na to ang answer ana. Ngano man? Kay kung naa kay cube root of, this can be written as negative 3 cube, right? Agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this will be canceled out. So your answer is negative 3. But if inside the cube, the radical is a positive number, walay problema. Automatic ni sa tinuod. But if it is negative, you should see to it that the index here is odd, positive odd integer. But in case it is an even number, example, fourth root of, say, 16, negative 16 rather. So in this case, it will not work. Okay? It will work if you are considering complex numbers. But if real numbers only, then you don't have answer. Okay? Sometimes limit does not exist in that case. Or probably there will be something that you need to do so that you can find the limits as we go along to our discussion. Okay, that's it for this. So what is the answer in number 1? Any guess? Actually, class, ang idea is inyo rin yung i-substitute dira. So it will be 5th root of, what is 2 times 4? It's negative 1, right?
Negative 1,
1
sir.
cube.
Negative 1 cube.
Cube.
And in this case, negative 1 cube is also negative 1, right?
Yes, sir.
It's also negative 1. Observe, this L inside is less than 1, less than 0 rather, right? But
Yes,
your
sir.
index is an odd. So it means nani say answer. Remember that negative 1, hopefully you will agree, that negative 1 can be written as negative 1 raised to 5. Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Why we choose 5? Because our index is 5, so that it will be cancelled out, so your answer is negative.
Then negative 1.
Okay, that's it. So the answer here is negative 1. So here, the answer is negative 1. And the same thing in number 2. In number 2, you just have your cube root of, if you use 0 here, so it is just 8, right?
8.
And in this case, your L is greater than 0. So no problem. Wala na yung problema. So pwede na
2
gamiton.
cube.
So cube root of
2 cube.
2 cube. Very good. So your answer is just 2.
2.
Okay? So your answer is 2. Your answer here is 2. Okay? Wala lang. Ay comment sa chat. 2. Good. So the next thing that we will have, please unmute the microphone kung wala nagstorya. So na si Raslia? Is that Raslia? Okay, now for the quotient, if this is L and this is M, provided that M should not be equal to 0. Again, M should not be equal to 0 because if M is 0, then probably there are conditions you need to consider. It's either your limit does not exist, or your limit might be infinity, probably. So we will be discussing later about limits at infinity. So as of now, situate that your M should not be equal to 0, because if M is 0, it will be a number over a 0. And we know that it is undefined in the real number system. But again, in taking the limit, there are conditions to be considered. Okay. Now, in this case, ang inyo, again, ang idea ra gyud diri class is inyo lang i-substitute ang inyong fixed point diri sa inyong function. Okay? So in that case, it will be now. That is 3, right? Since that is 3, at ang patakan gamay. So it is just 3 cube. That is your f of x, limit of your f of x as x approaches to a. The other one is 2 times 3 plus 3. And that is the limit of g of x as x approaches to a. And in this case, this is just equal to 27, right?
18.
Yes.
18.
Yes, sir.
And here is
18, sir.
9.
9,
9.
right? So what's ang answer?
3.
3.
3, right? May question?
Wala na, sir.
Wala.
Sir.
Wala,
Okay.
sir.
So after that, this one. In this case, it will be cube root of 8. Ang idea ra jud class is substitute lang sa na imong fixed point dito. Later na among gutay example nga dili mag-work kung inyo i-substitute kay either ma-0 diri or both numerator and denominator become 0. So naabot tay lain nga theorem. As of now, it will work for this. So it will be 8 minus 7, that will give us 1, right? And the cube root of 8, we know that that is 2. So your answer is 2 over 1 or simply 2,
2.
right?
2,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, the answer is 2. Okay, that's it. And we will be discussing the remaining theorem tomorrow. Kinahanglan ni oras nga i-discuss. Kinahanglan tag isa ka meetingan ani nga theorem. Okay? Studyhin lang ninyo na daan na yung mga kuan. So, ang inyo sang ansiran, inyong i-practice og answer is kaning sa exercises. There are problems here nga gamitan ani nga theorem. And there are problems nga dili na. Gamitan lang atong nga discuss na to karon. I-try lang ninyo answer ning 1 to 10 and we will answer again that about that tomorrow. Okay? Question so far?
None, sir.
Wala na, sir.
None,
And then the
sir.
last the next topic na din nato is one-sided limit. Nag-introduce naman ko gamay anak kaganiha yung one-sided limit. So I think that would be all for the day. And do you have any questions? Kung wala na, that would be good.
Answer.
So dili lang nato bukaton kaayo ang meeting kada adlaw, hinahinayon lang nato. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So I think that would be all. Ato sang stop ang record.